There, do you struggle with anxiety or maybe have thoughts that won't turn off? Maybe you can't fall asleep because you have thoughts that won't stop running, or maybe you wake up in the middle of the night and those thoughts of worry about everything that's happening in your life start showing up, even though the middle of the night usually isn't the best time to try to deal with those things, right? Well, I want to share with you why that might be happening. And I also want to give you some thoughts around some herbal support that I think can be really valuable if you're noticing this type of pattern is showing up for you. And I also want to share with you a surprising use for a specific herb that's really lovely for this type of pattern that actually goes beyond anxiety. It can be really valuable in different ways that you might not have known or thought of. So, let's talk about this pattern of anxiety that often shows up as ruminating thoughts, these thoughts that won't turn off. Maybe it's worries or fears, or could be anything. And even though we try to stop thinking about it, we just can't seem to turn that mind off. This can be a sign of low GABA function, right? GABA is one of our feel-good neurotransmitters, those chemicals in the brain and in the body that help us to stay calm and engaged and keep our thoughts on track. And when we're low in neurotransmitters like GABA, we might feel anxiety or just feeling down and depressed or anxious or have trouble sleeping. We might even see some signs of physical tension along with that kind of psychological or emotional tension that shows up. And that's a really common sign, actually, of low GABA. So, feeling kind of stiff or achy or like having knots in your stomach can be a sign that you might need some GABA support. And before we dive into what to do about that, I want to talk about why you might be experiencing low GABA in the first place, because I do think it's really important to piece that out and look at why are these neurotransmitter systems like GABA not optimal, right? Why are we not producing adequate amounts? Or there can be different things happening, of course, with our neurotransmitter systems. But understanding why that's happening and what we can do to fix it, I think is really important. But we're also going to talk, of course, about just some symptom relief, right? We just need to get some sleep. We just need to turn that anxiety down, and herbs can be really valuable for doing that. But a few of the reasons in my work with clients as a clinical herbalist and a functional nutrition practitioner and a trauma informed provider, I noticed that a lot of my clients have specific nutrient deficiencies that are impacting their ability to make neurotransmitters. They may have brain inflammation. I just did a video on brain inflammation last week, so you can check that out on my channel as well. And be sure to subscribe while you're at it so you can continue to get updates. But these are some of the common reasons. Even digestive issues and our toxin load can contribute to this dysregulation of our neurotransmitters like GABA. And again, I think it's really valuable to look at what's the underlying root cause or pattern that's creating this imbalance with neurotransmitters. But fortunately, again, there are some really specific things we can do just to get some sleep, just to turn off that anxiety or turn the volume down on those thoughts that won't turn off. And like I said, GABA is just one of our feel-good neurotransmitters. We have others like serotonin and endorphins and dopamine, and they all play a little bit of a different role in how they show up in terms of maybe anxiety or depression or sadness. Like low endorphins, for example, might lead to feeling kind of down, depressed, weepy, and low dopamine, on the other hand, often shows up as an inability to stay focused, to get things done, procrastination. And so I always find it really fascinating, actually, how there's a little bit of a different pattern with each of these different neurotransmitter systems. And I actually have an assessment that you can download below that looks at these four different neurotransmitters and the different patterns that show up when they are out of balance and gives you some thoughts and ideas on how to get started supporting that, including using botanical medicine, which, of course, as an herbalist, is my favorite approach for doing that. But Again, I want to talk about how do we start shifting this pattern of anxiety that's showing up, this pattern of thoughts that won't turn off. There's actually a specific herb that's really valuable here, and it's one of our nervines. And nervine herbs are just a class of herbs that really help to support our nervous system response and really can help with things like stress and sleep and overwhelm. And of course, as a trauma informed practitioner who's been trained in nervous system biology, and I work with many clients from around the world to support all types of brain health. Situations from depression and anxiety to sleep issues to brain inflammation from traumatic brain injuries and more. So I always start actually by supporting neurotransmitters and supporting the nervous system because when we're in the state of dysregulation, if you will, in the nervous system, it's so hard, right, to do a lot of the other things we want to do, to show up in life fully in our relationships, in the work that we do, in finding that capacity, as I like to say, to maybe eat healthy and exercise and do the things we enjoy. So I think it's really important to address the nervous system and brain function as a starting place in all of my clients. And if you are a practitioner, a holistic health coach, or other holistic practitioner, or an aspiring herbalist, and you want to know more about working with botanical medicine to support your clients, I have a free masterclass as well that I'd like to invite you to. Again, link below in the description. You can check that out because I will show you how to really master herbal medicine from an approach that combines traditional energetic herbalism with this modern functional medicine framework. But getting back to our topic of GABA and anxiety and how to create that sense of calm, there is one specific herb that I really love for this, and it is one of our nervines. It is Passionflower. And it really is specifically indicated for any kind of anxiety that shows up as those ruminating thoughts, those thoughts that won't turn off. Often they impact our ability to fall asleep, to relax. And it also has some affinity for some of that physical tension as well. And I think it's interesting how many of our nervines do help with physical as well as mental or emotional tension. And so, again, passion flower is an herb I use for anxiety or irritability, especially if we're seeing signs that someone's stuck in kind of that chronic stress response, right? They're wired but tired. They feel like they want to relax, but they just can't. And again, it may really be impacting their sleep, especially if those thoughts that won't turn off are part of the picture. There's actually a lot of research out that shows how passion flower works on the brain and has some GABAergic effects on the brain, just meaning it helps to support healthy GABA levels. And I was also looking at some research that showed how one mechanism of action of passion flower is that it acted on opioid receptors as well. So there's a little bit of, and again, just understanding of how an herb like passion flower, a nervine, can help to relax the mind and the body and help us to come back into that place of feeling regulated and safe and supported so we can go out and live our lives wholly without feeling overwhelmed. So if you're wondering again, if you have low levels of GABA, again, check out that mood fix assessment that I have linked below. If you're a practitioner who works with botanical medicine to support clients, come to that free masterclass. I want to show you how you can understand the energetics of herbs, combining that with the specific actions and affinities of herbs to always know the right herb to use with your clients to get results. And one other thing I wanted to share with you before you wrap up, there's a very specific indication of passion flower as well that goes a little bit beyond this mood and anxiety piece. It's actually an excellent remedy for what we might call occipital headaches, right? These are headaches that start in like the back of the neck. You may feel like this pulsing or throbbing or even kind of almost just stabbing pain that starts in the back of the neck or maybe kind of the upper back or shoulders, radiates into the back of the head, maybe behind the ears, and may even kind of radiate to the top of the head or even behind the eyes. But it's really that headache that starts in that back of the head. And Passionflower is actually a really lovely herb for this specific type of headache. So I've used this with clients who often have some anxiety showing up along with those occipital headaches with really great results. And you can find Passionflower as a tincture. That's really my favorite way to use herbs in general, but definitely this one works really well as a tincture, an herbal liquid extract, right? That you can take 3 times a day or even more. You can take it during times when you feel that headache coming on or when you're noticing those ruminating thoughts showing up that won't turn off. And of course, I always combine my herbs into synergistic formulas that are really targeted to my clients. So I would combine passion flower with other nervine herbs, right? Herbs that help to relax tension and anxiety in the nervous system, as well as herbs like adaptogens, which help to also regulate our stress response through the HPA axis, right? That adrenal response to stress. So a little bit of a different action between adaptogens and nervines. And then I also use nootropics as well in this case with many of my clients. And these are just herbs that help to support healthy brain function in many different ways. They can support neuroplasticity and memory and learning and cognition. And they are really lovely herbs as well to use if brain inflammation is part of the picture, which it often is when we're struggling with chronic mood symptoms. So that is a really quick overview of passion flower and some of the very specific ways it is indicated for specific types of anxiety. And when you get really targeted like that in the herbs you're using to support yourself or your clients, that's where you're going to get the best results. So I hope if you are noticing any of those occipital headaches showing up, or if ruminating thoughts that are keeping you awake at night or anxiety, you'll give passion flower a try and combine it with some of our other really lovely, beautiful herbs for stress and mood, because that's where you're going to get really great results. Again, make sure to subscribe if you're not already, and you can always keep up to date with what's going on in the world of herbal medicine, as well as grab some of those free resources below. And then I will plan to see you next time.